what's going on, everyone? So, in the coming months, many of us will probably be looking back at the last 3 years of the Nintendo Switch. Both celebrating its success and software library, as well as probably still grumbling about other things that have transpired over the last 3 years. But one thing that still lingers around is people's doubts in what the Switch is capable of achieving. Game-wise, graphically, whatever. Like I said, more accurately, we're talking, graphical and performance-wise here when it comes to what we class as multi-platform games, or perhaps more accurately, like I said, graphical and performance-wise when it comes to what we class as multi-platform games or ports of multi-platform games coming to the Switch. But what I'd like to talk about is where many people's fears, doubts and reservations, come from when it comes to multi-platform games on the Nintendo Switch in regards to their performance and graphical fidelity for the most part. Initially when the Switch came out, many of us were wondering what the system would be capable of, with most people, probably assuming, based off its size and early, confirmed software that we call Windows, that the Switch itself would most likely be a little bit more capable, graphically than the Nintendo Wii U, Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, which is understandable, from a consumer point of view, given that the Switch was indeed a tiny device, even when compared to those systems. But as time went on and the games started rolling in, it was starting to become clear that this little device could produce software that was currently being played on the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, and was producing quite surprising results in the if the effort was put in. And that's the key here, like with any system, when the effort is put in, most gaming machines can produce wonders for their particular architecture. And as consoles have evolved over the years along with the tools, game machines across the board have become very similar in components and tools used, which has allowed for game engines to be moved across platforms with more ease than before. Now, of course, this doesn't mean creating games for any platform is easy, let alone a system that hasn't got the same overall graphical grunt as other systems when you're trying to produce the same games on them. But developers have far more options now to scale up or down their software, and this has been shown with the Switch ports, that have taken many people by surprise at the overall results. Games like Doom, The Witcher 3, Dragon Quest 11, Warframe, Diablo 3, Alien Isolation, which is released. Actually hasn't released yet. It's coming out recently, soon. And Wolfenstein, which me and Terminator Juice talked about before, where we got into a little discussion about whether we thought the Switch was being pushed too much with some games, but once again, it all depends on what we're trying to achieve here. And many people even joked at the very idea of such games on just appearing on the Switch, completely convinced that it was in some ways impossible. And you hear that still now to the day, the impossible port. But we always have to keep asking ourselves, what's that based off? Especially with the Switch, is because previous handhelds, or supposed graphical superiority of the more traditional home consoles that are on the market right now. Even though I consider the Switch a traditional home console, but here we are, nonetheless, with some pretty impressive looking games on the Nintendo Switch, whether they are multi-platform or not. So after a very brief discussion, I had the other day, I had to ask myself, where does the fear of multi-platform games or ports of current existing multi-platform games come from? Considering all the evidence of previous releases that we've had, clearly showing what this little machine is capable of, the Nintendo Switch. I think we can write off, the size of the game world, especially when it comes to, to games, as large as Breath of the Wild and The Witcher 3. Graphically, we've seen some truly stunning titles on the console, like The Witcher 3. Once again, I put Breath of the Wild up there, Astral Chain, Doom, and more artistic ones like Super Mario Odyssey, Dragon's Quest, which looks amazing, and what I'm playing now is Luigi's Mansion 3, which is just blowing me away graphically. That's just to name a few. So what about how the game controls? The Switch is by nature a versatile console that offers a number of controller options, as well as developers adding in additional control options, like motion controls and gyro controls that most Nintendo fans are used to. And through all these options, no genre should have an issue on the platform, as proven already now by the large number of genres that are on the Nintendo Switch. So if the fear and doubt for the most part doesn't lie in what the system is capable of from what we've seen, itself, like I said, it's been proven multiple times now already by many of the games I mentioned, plus more. So where does the fear and doubt continue to lie? And I feel like, as always, like with every console that has ever existed, we have to put our faith into the developers themselves. And this is where the problem has always been, for the most part, I guess. Even when the console manufacturers themselves can bugger things up with their hardware, or try something unique with their hardware that goes beyond the established norm. It's been shown that when a developer knows how to truly develop and spends time to truly understand the system, then wonders can occur. You see me all the time on big up any system that pushes beyond its norm and generates a stunning piece of software that the system and developer themselves can be proud of. And I've always viewed consoles like this. If you've known me long enough, it's one of the reasons why we fell in love with Rareware. During their Nintendo era, they were the developer that pushed Nintendo hardware into the realms that had not thought possible. Which is why Nintendo, snapped them up when they showed off Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, which done things that were not thought possible on that machine. And Rare continued this trend, all the way through the N64 era, and even still, produced the stunning looking Star Fox Adventures on the Nintendo GameCube, which still to this day looks absolutely incredible. The same reason why I big up games like Panzer Dragoon Saga and Burning Rangers on the Sega Saturn as examples. Games that produced stunning 3D visuals and lighting on a machine that was originally built as a 2D powerhouse, and then banged together as a 3D machine last minute to combat the announcement of the PlayStation 1. And whilst many developers struggled to understand the Saturn hardware, no thanks to Sega, there were those that managed to work wonders on that system and produce some great looking titles, 3D titles that easily stood up to the PlayStation 1. I could mention other consoles, games and developers, but the point is, in many ways I feel like we've lost faith in many of the developers who we once worshipped, as the gods of the industry. When it comes to the point where you can't even trust a company like Capcom to do a decent port of a GameCube game, like Resident Evil 4 on the Nintendo Switch, then you got issues. And all of that feeds into the continued disbelief that other games aren't possible on such platforms. It's a toxic mixture, I feel, and quite a sad one, really. But it highlights, many issues with the industry and the current mentality that is built up in the gamers that keep it afloat. Yes, in an ideal world, it would be lovely to have faith in most developers to be able to create, good performing and well-developed games for the Nintendo Switch in this example, but that's proven, unfortunately, to be more of a rarity. And from the companies which we used to consider as the best, which is why we praise once lesser known developers like Panic Button when they produced what was always possible, but we were led to believe was impossible, based off the performance of other developers and even the overall gaming media, which got its own issues when it comes to conveying information about what these systems should be capable of and what they can do, and praising, really praising great strong developers when they do great strong games. So I suppose what happens next? Do we start doubting that games like Cyberpunk 2077 can't come to the Switch? Do we doubt that the will and passion of CD Projekt Red to bring their latest games to the hottest selling system on the market right now? I don't think we should. And even though CD Projekt Red have come out and said, they've kind of said they're looking into it, but they're not sure yet. Trust me, they are trying. I believe that. I truly believe that they are trying. Do we doubt Capcom to bring their biggest selling Monster Hunter game to a console whose portable to a company, whose portable platforms have proven successful to the Monster Hunter series before, and right now, like I said, it's one of the hottest selling systems on the market. Of course we doubt them. Based off the fact that it's still not on the system for whatever reasons they can conjure up. But based off what's already on the system, do you truly believe that Monster Hunter couldn't run on the Nintendo Switch in a competent fashion? I think it's also the fact that Capcom have now become notorious, for limp efforts when it comes to porting games. Once again, nothing really to do with the system, just the developer. And I suppose the same goes for the likes of EA, Activision, Ubisoft, and the usual bunch of half-wits where the word consistent, I suppose, is only used negatively when placed in the same sentence as any of those developers. But I think I'm done here. If the Switch hasn't proven its capabilities to you yet, then I don't know. I don't know what to say. But my stance for the most part is always, with the developer themselves when it comes to trusting and believing that certain games can be brought to the Nintendo Switch successfully. And if the passion and willpower is there, then that's when we see the magic. And we've seen it in the past plenty of times. We've seen it at the start of console generations. We've seen it at midpoints of console generations and at the ends. When developers, really get to know systems, really want to produce something great because they want that product to shine for themselves as a testament of their company. This is us. This is our video game. This is us here. This is our product. We want you to love it and enjoy it, and we put our all into it. That's what you want to feel, and you feel that when you get the right games. And we've had those right games on the Switch, and I'm sure we're going to see more. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. A bit of a long one here, sorry, but yeah, let me know your thoughts below. And as always, thanks for listening. Take care all, and peace.